Dude, holy crap. Look at this. Arise, my pet. Oh, it was not able to do that before. Like the servos, the blue ones are not strong enough. There you go. Is that on? Ah, yep, it is. So, after I upgraded this robot servos to the MG90Ds from the blue servos, had this really bad startup jitter problem. You can see that right now. It's hard to do with one hand, but there's a switch on the left here. Turn that on. That was not as dramatic. Yeah, like that. And that's not right. Now it's correct. And then after the 10-second program delay, it'll start walking. But so long time ago, like a couple of years ago, I was working on this moisture sensor project where the ESP, initially it was supposed to run entirely on its own, but I ended up having another board that the ESP turned on by a MOSFET switch, high side. So the ESP would turn a pin high and it would allow power to flow on the bigger microcontroller, but they were talking to each other with TXRX lines and there was like a power leak problem, so eventually like it would lead to a brownout on the bigger microcontroller. So it was like stealing power somewhere and I couldn't figure it out. But the circuit, which I got help from to make because I couldn't figure it out from diagrams. Like they pretty much drew it for me and gave it to me. This switch works, so I'm gonna make it again, but a tiny board, and I'll cut into this where the power that goes to feed the servos, and the Teensy will turn on first, and then it'll turn on the rest of the servos. This unfortunately is not going to be easy to do because there's so many wires packed into this thing. Gotta figure out, come on. Gotta figure out which ones to like cut. It's also hard to get at because everything's connected. You can see the servo wires leading down. There's a servo rail here, power bus on both sides. It comes out of this power supply chip over here. So, surprise, surprise, this picture is hard to follow. It's not that hard. The actual circuit looks like this. But this is what I came up with. It does work. Problem is, I bought exactly one of this P-channel MOSFET, or I'm not sure. So I gotta figure out where the hell that is. I have a bunch of IRZs, 44s, but I don't know if it is a match. Okay, here it is wired up. The Arduino is providing the 5-volt source. The high switch, or high side switch, is coming from pin 0. It's writing digital write high-low. This is the 2N2222. I forgot what these things are called. Transistor. And it triggers, it's a GDS drain, I don't know. The NDP 6020p P-channel MOSFET, and then that allows the 5-volt source to get pulled out. And then there's a diode here. First try, it's not working. The switching is working. I see it go from 0 to 3.3 and then go back to 0. Connecting it to the load, it's always at 5 volts. Okay, I got it. I had these two wires backwards. It's gate, drain, source. Drain is the one that increases to whatever value you have. Source is the 5 volt. And gate is the switch. Transistor, high side. So yeah, it's working. Trying to come in. Okay. Hmm. Five seconds. Back to 0. So I gotta put all that, fit it here. It's not really hard. I just had to rewire it and get it right and test it. So this is not as compact as it could have been, but there's also like not a lot of room on here. It'd be nice if it just fit in this little area. You see how massive this is comparatively. That's not great. There's also not that much to it, so I definitely could have used like half of the space. It's like that scene in Star Wars. Anakin's like, "What have I done?" Massacred my boy. Forgot to mention I have to find a pin, an unused Teensy pin, and then connect this guy here. Oh my god. I use like an f4 lens minimum. So, even after all that, it's not fixed. So I think it really is when the servos come on, they disrupt the power to the Teensy and then it's not able to control the servos. So I have a bunch of these ultra capacitors. These are 3 volt, 3.3 farad. So I'll put 2 of them in series and then another 2 like that in parallel. So it'll be a 6 volt, I think 3.3 farad. Then I'll put that where the power, the step up module, just before it gets to the servos. So this is interesting. This is what I was concerned about. I think you're not supposed to put capacitors in parallel or with a regulating power supply, because they like, I don't know, I could be completely wrong on that, but this sound is not normal. You did not make that sound before. So I'm thinking of doing is, these are 3.3 volts, or sorry, 3 volt. Put them in series, that's 6 volt, but it's only like 250 milliamp additional, so 4 of these together, or I mean 2 more, 1 more. There's 4 caps, and I think it'll be able to fit neatly inside there, but they'll give it like half an amp extra to pull from, and I'll connect it to the battery, which I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so got some help online. They said it is definitely a bad idea to put these supercapacitors in parallel. Like it's like 1,000 times more. And that is bad, that's why I was squealing. So this doesn't really make sense what I'm gonna do because this power supply takes in 2 inputs, so I could feed the same battery like I'm gonna do with this other one here, but this one pulls 2 amps, so it's a little less. Although I don't think it literally pulls 2 amps unless it actually uses it. So, and then ideally the ESP01 and the Teensy use the separate power supply. So even if the battery dies, you know, can't move anymore, or not battery dies, but the servos can't run anymore, this thing could still transmit a status like I'm dead, you know, help me. So these boost converters, once you turn the potentiometer to the voltage you want, in my case I was trying to go just above 5. It was 503 initially, but then after I put the hot glue on so the thing doesn't turn in the future, it's up to 5.1, but that's okay as long as it's around 5 volts. And they share the same input from the same single cell battery, but this thing specifically powers the Teensy, which, yeah, is probably like a waste, and I probably should have connected everything else, like low power wise sensors and whatnot, to this board, but this thing has so many wires it's like hard to modify it. This thing's so strong now. Definitely slips. Might have to slow it down. So I need the remote stop. I have it programmed